This is the multiple award-winning GardenDC podcast, the podcast about everything gardening in the Washington, D.C. and Mid-Atlantic region. I'm your host, Kathy Jentz. I'm the editor of Washington Gardener magazine. Our content is aimed at gardening enthusiasts, people who grow everything, from edibles to ornamentals, natives to exotics. If it grows in our area, that's what we talk about. Welcome to episode 259 of the GardenDC podcast. Have you ever dreamed of moving from your current garden to a full-fledged farm in the country? In this episode, we talk with the gardening gays, Kevin and Dragan, all about their transformation from small garden to country farm. The plant profile is on Harry Aster, and we share what's going on in the garden as well as some upcoming local gardening events in the What's New segment. We close out with the last word on the Ghost Orchid by Christy Page of Green Prints. This episode I'm joined by the gardening gays, Kevin Graham and Dragan.
Oh, hello.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Great to have you both on, and we're going to talk about that big transition you all made from the DC suburbs to country living, farming, and gardening. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask each of you separately a little bit about your backgrounds. And on the GardenDC podcast, we like to ask our guests, were they born with chlorophyll in their veins and a green thumb? So I'll start with you, Kevin. Were you a natural-born gardener?
I think I was a natural-born runner away from gardening. My dad had a lawn service and a landscaping business, and my brothers and sisters and I all grew up doing that. That was our very first job. So we all grew up on a lawnmower, pulling weeds, planting flowers, blowing off driveways, trimming hedges, all of that kind of stuff. And my dad gave us all the same speech when we left home from high school to go to college, which was stay in school, make something of yourself so that you don't have to eat dust for a living like I do. And we all swore we didn't want any hedges, any flower beds, none of that stuff around our house because we got tired of doing that hard, intense labor in other people's yards. And wouldn't you know it, adulthood shows up and I'm right back in flower beds, pulling weeds, doing all that same hard, intense work, except this time it's in my own yard.
Mm-hmm. It's always less work, though, when it's for yourself.
It's a little more rewarding.
Yeah, that's always nice. And how about you, Dragan?
I'm originally from Croatia, Eastern Europe. I grew up in a really small rural town. Farming was way of life. But just like Kevin, I hated it growing up. I could not wait to get away from anything green, anything to do with the dirt, soil. And so 25 years I spent in hospitality industry. I worked my way up from a busboy to a general manager, managed several big places up in the DMV area, from Philomena to Hank's Oyster Bar. And kind of after COVID, we started reevaluating what we're going to do with our life and kind of started this journey.
So a lot of people have done similar things, evaluated, reassessed their lives during COVID and post-COVID. What made you all make that decision or transition? And I guess we should start with where you were before COVID.
Kevin, do you want to take that?
Sure. During the pre-COVID years, this feels like life is before COVID and after COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
We owned a townhome in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C., 20 minutes to the U.S. Capitol. And during that time period, while the world was shutting down and your inner circles and bubbles were forming, anytime we did go to a grocery store, because we lived so close to D.C., the shelves would be empty, rice would be rationed, only one loaf of bread per family, those types of things. And it was just a shock to the system as for a lot of folks, including ourselves. We had already converted the entire backyard at our townhome into a garden space where we were growing plants and vegetables. And we always had, little odds and ends of produce, some tomatoes and zucchini, just a home garden, enough for ourselves and to always share with friends that came by. During that period and before, we had also started propagating plants and growing our own plants that we would sell to our neighbors in our neighborhood. And Gardening Gaze was born from that time. Just a hashtag that we started throwing out there on pictures on our personal social media, and it evolved over time. And as Dragan said, during COVID, it made us kind of stop and think, how can we put ourselves in a position where if something like this were to happen on a global scale again, that we were a little more self-sustaining, and what would that look like? And we started doing the research, and our townhouse really we started referring to as our laboratory, because we knew then that we were learning lessons that we were going to take into the next chapter, whatever that was at that time.
And so I'm imagining you would start with searching real estate ads, starting to look in the region, but were you always going to settle down in the DC area, or were you looking further afield? And I'll let Dragan take that one.
So Kevin has been working from us since we moved. So we met in Florida. We moved to DC, DMV area in 2013, and Kevin has been working from home ever since. So on that aspect, COVID never changed anything for him. With me, with the hospitality industry, I was without a job almost instantly when COVID hit. So we with such a good connections with DC restaurants and DC chefs, we loved the idea of being within, hour away from DC. We looked in the immediate neighborhoods around, Maryland, and all of that, but we were pretty quickly shocked on price tags of anything with a larger property, and we were conservative enough we started looking at the properties up to 5 acres. Coming from a townhouse that has barely any land on it, we were like, 5 acres sounds like massive property, and that's where we started. We were limited with the budget. We knew that one of us, Kevin, is going to stay with his job, and I'll be most likely going full-time on the farm. So, that restricts the budget because we're going to be cutting one of our salaries instantly until business kind of takes off. So there was kind of theory behind it, but we were open to other places, and YouTube was our best friend. We did lots of research on states on the East Coast. We were open to be anywhere on the East Coast. We even traveled up to New Hampshire, looked at some properties all over Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland. And this is the furthest south where we are now, where we settled actually in King George, Virginia.
Yeah, I do know a lot of former gardeners, and they mainly went to upstate New York. And I think that's a price decision for a lot of people. Or they went south, like to North Carolina or elsewhere where they could find more land.
I loved it. So Croatia, where I grew up, is full 4 seasons, 4 distinct seasons. We had snow pretty much from December through probably good portion of March. Then we have a nice spring. Summer was about 2 months, 2.5 months, and then nice fall. So I kind of missed it. I lived in Florida 14 years. I kind of missed that. And we played with the idea of moving up north. I love how people's flower gardens look up north. When the garden has enough time to rest, how beautiful those gardens come back. I don't know, maybe it's just how garden comes back after that, but I always admire that. Living in Florida, and then Florida is very stagnant. Yeah, you can plant stuff, and it's nice that frost doesn't kill everything, but it doesn't look as vibrant as the northern gardens. For me, that was always so beautiful.
Yeah, and I think if I moved further south, I would miss bulbs, tulips and daffodils. I would miss, obviously, as you said, our change in seasons, but I don't think I could live without lilacs. So once you settled on the land in King George, did you make the just transition immediate, or did you go back and forth between your nearby city property to the country, or you just said cold turkey, now we're out on the farm?
It was quick. We were lucky enough with the property that we got that it initially hit the market at the beginning of COVID, and nobody was buying land at that time. It came back off. There were a couple of price changes. There was an offer that didn't go all the way through. And then interest rates fell on the property, which then put it within grasp of our budget. And when we put an offer in, we settled in 45 days. I think it's always, there's a photo that I took of Dragan outside of one of our U-Hauls. We had to rent a U-Haul just to haul all of our plants from our townhouse to the farm. Jumped right in. We got chickens probably that first week or second week. We started with 35 egg layers that we purchased. We are up to 300 right now on the farm. And it was, full steam ahead from then. I think one of the things that always surprised people in the beginning was how big our commitment was to what we were doing and how that showed up. It showed up just as big. I think now our reputation is such that when people see that we do things, we don't do things on a small scale. That's just never been who we have been as a couple and how we live our life. Everything is go big because if we're going to put the effort in it, we believe in the things that we're doing. We believe in each other. And so there's no reason for us to try to test things out. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it all the way. And that's how things work here at the farm.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just get it done, just do it, right? And everything else will follow. So for that first year of growing, and I'll ask this for Dragan, what were the first things you got into the ground once you got the farm?
We mapped out. So to a little background on the property. The property is 27 acres. About 15 acres was clear land, usable land, and 12 acres is wooded area. So we moved in September of 2021, and we kind of spent that fall and winter kind of planning our market. We always call it a market garden where we're going to sell the stuff from. And that following March, we were with the tiller tilling the ground, and we planted flowers from zinnias, dahlias, cosmos for the cut flower garden, all the fillers. And on the other half was the market garden where it was vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, green beans, all kinds of vegetables. So that was right away, we were full steam ahead. We couldn't wait till May just to have everything in the ground. And then by end of May, everything, entire garden was planted.
Wow. So Kevin, I'll ask this one of you. So the property in King George, Virginia, for our listeners who are outside the Mid-Atlantic area, can you describe a little bit about where King George is in relation to Washington, D.C. or to Richmond, Virginia, and kind of a little bit about the growing conditions? Is it compacted clay soil? I think it's zone 7A there.
Sure. Yeah. So King George is about halfway between Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia. And our farm sits right on US 301. We are 2 miles north of the Rappahannock River. A mile south of us is President James Madison's birthplace. So this stretch of 301 is actually called James Madison Parkway. And 15 miles to our north is the Potomac River. So King George, the counties Visit King George marketing plans are kind of the city between two rivers. And while it is a rural community, there is ample access to big city amenities if you need them. DC is just an hour and 15 minutes away to the north. It takes about an hour for us to go south into Richmond. And Fredericksburg is right off of Interstate 95. And we can be in Fredericksburg in 20 to 25 minutes for any of the big box store shopping and things of that nature that we need. Plus, there's also the Naval Warfare Center is right here, located in King George at Dahlgren. So that brings in an influx of people who are sometimes transient to the area. So we get exposure through that way. And then there are a lot of people who spent time based here for their military career. They might have left, but they always loved King George. They've moved back. One of the things that I say about this community has been so great and amazing to us is that King George pride, I think, is such an underrated story around here because people really are proud of the community that we live in. And just like everywhere else, there are people with deep-seated beliefs that may not match their neighbor across the street or next door. But I think overall, at the end of the day, the community really comes together. They really support local. They really support small. And I think that's been part of the reason that we've been able to grow and succeed and grow as fast and as big as we have.
And for your growing conditions, can you describe the soil and aside from the growing zone?
Sure. So we have that dreaded Virginia clay here in our area where it can be quite compacted and hard to get things into the ground. The other challenge that we deal with our property is at one point there were cattle that grazed some of our pastures. So that makes the ground even that much harder to try to get a shovel in or to do any tilling. The way that we have gotten around a lot of that is with our rotational grazing practices, with our chicken tractors, having meat chickens that we raise, moving around the pasture. Our egg layers, we have a mobile coop that we call an egg mobile that we can hook up to our tractor and move to different patches, and then encircle it with an electrified fence that helps to predator proof our chickens. We also have livestock guardian dogs now on property. So those are some of the ways that we've tried to get around dealing with the often hard to work with Virginia clay conditions, and it's worked out great in our favor.
And the property was a working farm before you purchased it?
It had been, the previous owners did not work it as a farm, but owners in the past have. There have been horses on this farm. There have been goats on this farm. There have been Angus cattle that were visitors to the farm. One of the owners allowed the neighbors to bring their cattle to graze on the pastures. But as far as we know, nobody has really worked it to produce food the way that we've done. And they have not done the type of rotational grazing and farming practices that we've done as well too.
And I know, and I'll give this one to Dragan, is that you have been chronicling this whole journey, and you had alluded to already having started on social media and getting the word out about your channel before making the transition to farming. And so the Gardening Gaze, how did you come up with that name?
Kevin mentioned that earlier. It started almost as a joke, Gardening Gaze, as we converted our townhouse backyard into raised bed garden, and we were Gardening Gaze of the neighborhood. We bought a townhouse, so we bought a brand new, and as soon as we saw the builder's grade landscaping, immediately we ripped everything out. So literally we redid it with entire landscaping of our townhouse. And we kind of started recording just to see the progress of what we doing with the townhouse. And that's how kind of our social media journey started, and kind of finding our own voice. It took us a little while to find our own voice. We are huge fans of a couple of big YouTube channels that we watched. There was huge inspiration to us. One of them being Garden Answer Laura from she's in Idaho, I believe. I'm sure, and any gardener that's familiar with her channel, we loved watching her, and we drew so much inspiration from her. Many times we were trying to copy what she's doing, and it was very forced, and we would get frustrated. Every video had to have some kind of how-to, or we had to show people how it's done. Some of the stuff we were even learning ourselves, so it felt that we're faking it. So it took us probably a good 2 years to figure out that this doesn't feel natural to us. It feels forced, and we didn't like it. When did we start vlog, Kevin? What was it?
The vlog started in August of 2023 was when we started our farm life vlog. We changed our format on how we do videos on YouTube.
So then we started, this is how we live our farm life. And we took daily snippets. We would do 5 to 10 minutes of a day in life on the farm, and Kevin would compact that into a whole week, and we would post a weekly. And ever since that day, we've been posting every single week. a vlog of life on the farm.
And I can imagine it's very rewarding having recorded a lot of that and looking back. And then sometimes you want to cringe though, right? Some of your earlier videos. What mistakes, maybe I'll ask this for Kevin, did you make early on that you were like, oh, I really don't even want to think about that again?
Well, I tend to look at it all as learning experiences, not as mistakes. We've shifted along the way. There are things that Dragan used to always start speaking and he would clap his hands before he would start talking. I would use filler words where I would end a sentence and say so at the end of it, as if there was something else or I was expecting a response back from somebody. But you watch yourself when you do things, and people ask us for advice or things on how do you get started and what should I do. And the same advice that you get from pretty much anybody else who does this is just keep doing it. You have to do it. You have to get used to your voice. You have to get over it. And when we sit down and watch the vlogs every week ourselves, I watch it as if I'm watching somebody else. It's people that I am familiar with, but it's not myself. I don't see myself. I see the gardening gaze online. And a lot of times when Sunday comes around and we are publishing the vlog, I have no idea what happened that past week until I sit down to start editing it. So it's also a fresh reminder when life in the farm is moving so fast that we can sit back and say, oh yeah, that did happen. Or just to see exactly how fast things move, or working to improve on camera angles or things that just feel natural. Like Dragan alluded to the authenticity of things. And I think that's been really a huge part of our learning process, is leaning into our own voice. We know what style we like. We know what works for us. We don't force things. There are days that go, even in this current season of YouTube vlogging for myself, I have let down the notion to feel as if I need to tell a complete story all week. Sometimes there's just one story being told in a vlog, and it may take me the entire week for us to get through it. So I think the grace factor also too, allowing yourself grace as you are going through learning process on how to tell your story and taking ownership of your story. There are a lot of people who come to us often, especially as our channels grow. We are over 26,000 followers on Facebook, over 5,000 on YouTube, approaching 100,000 on TikTok. And that starts to generate interested people who want to come and tag along with you on your journey and say, oh, let me help you to improve this or improve that. But we are so protective of our voice and how we present ourselves that we are maintaining our focus and sticking with our own recording, our own editing, and putting it out ourselves.
It's super important to be authentic, especially in this world of AI that's coming around on us. And do you find that many of your followers are watching your journey because they want to do something similar, or they're just curious about the transition from city to country living, really?
I think that a lot of people like to get lost in other people's journeys. You know, we Dragan and I are always amazed at some of the random YouTube videos that we'll watch, and there'll be some older European couple, and they're just going through their day. They're tending to their farm. They're making coffee. They're making dinner. Nobody ever says a word. Sometimes it's not even music playing. It's just the ambient sound of the birds. And these things have millions of views because it's an escapism for people. While we do things like voiceovers that I not one of my favorite things to do when we do TikTok videos, but the way that people resonate with the cadence of your voice, the music choices that we make. People call it their moment of zen that they look forward to. It's a time for them to relax, to reset, and you become a part of their routine. And it's a way for them to feel like there is something nice going on in the world. We try to keep our channel as uplifting as possible. We do stay true to the trials and the hardships that we have. If we lose animals, if we're disappointed with something that's going on, we share those things too. But by and large, what people are seeing is everyday life and a positive attitude, because we always know that we are in it to win it and to move the ball forward and to get up and to do it day after day.
Dragan, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, well, exactly what Kevin said. I would just add that I appreciate what you kind of touched base on it. I truly appreciate going back and watching the progress of the farm. As a gardener, as we always know how harsh we are on ourselves and how quickly we get lost in what needs to be done versus what we already done. What improvement we made, what we planted so far, how beautiful it looks. And I even watched Laura. I'm going to go back to GardenDC and watch her videos. And when somebody compliments her and say, "Oh, there's weeds there," I was like, "Oh my God, we do exactly the same thing." Somebody's complimenting you on how amazing your thing looks, and all you're looking at is those weeds. And it's the same thing with our farm progress. We will get lost on exhausting work and not see the progress that we made. And then I go back to some of the videos and I'm like, oh my God, in the 1 week we did this, and this, so many different things. I was like, wow, this is just amazing. And it's good to see it sometimes from other people's perspective versus your own, because you will see the completely different set of eyes.
And I'm always surprised at what people pick up on and see in the details that you never saw in person.
GardenDC will be back after this short break.
Get low-maintenance alternatives to lawns with Ground Cover Revolution by Kathy Jentz. Reducing the lawn is among the biggest trends in homeownership, with an endless stream of homeowners looking for an eco-friendly alternative to a traditional turfgrass lawn. In the last few years alone, over 23 million Americans converted part of the lawn to a natural landscape, and now they're looking to do even more. The biggest challenge to adopting this new ideal of the perfect lawn? Knowing how and when to replace your turf and which plants are the best ones for the job. Ground Cover Revolution is here with all the answers you need, and some you didn't even know you needed. Included are 40 in-depth profiles of plants that are perfect choices for replacing a grass lawn. There are options for sun, for shade, for dry and wet sites, and for various climates around the globe. There are choices that bloom, options that are evergreen, and selections that are deer-resistant. Kathy Jentz has also included an incredibly useful chart that gives you all the specifics on each of the 40 choices for quick reference and to make your ground cover selection process even easier. Whether you want to replace the entire lawn or just reduce the amount of land dedicated to turf, Ground Cover Revolution will help you usher in a new and improved idea of what a beautiful lawn should be. Ground Cover Revolution is available now wherever you buy books, including Amazon.com and Bookshop.org.
ABC Wednesdays, Shifting Gears is back.
He has arisen.
Tim Allen and Kat Dennings return in television's #1 new comedy.
What?
With a star-studded premiere including Jenna Elfman, Nancy Travis, and...
Hey, buddy!
A big home improvement reunion.
Welcome.
Oh, boy.
That guy's a tool.
Shifting Gears, new Wednesdays, 8, 7 Central on ABC, and stream on Hulu.
Is there anything you miss from having a small townhouse garden to now having 27 acres?
I can't say that I do. I don't know for Kevin. Maybe watering. Watering used to take 10 minutes. I would say, yeah, watering probably. But I love the space. It's definitely, I mean, we're still kind of learning to plant stuff with so much space as we have. I know some of the very first planting projects that we have, we planted some roses and we planted them 1.5 feet apart. And I'm looking at them now. I was like, oh my God, we still had that townhouse mentality where you are lacking space and you just trying to cramp in as much as possible in that space. And I'm like, this could have been half of the roses that they would have done a lot better versus how many we crammed into such a big space.
That's so true. They'll say that if you're still spending on a budget like you were in your college days, you still have that mentality, right? So same thing going from a small space garden to a large space, that you haven't given yourself that permission yet to spend that space, so to speak. How about you, Kevin? Anything you missed from the townhouse garden days?
No, not really. I look at everything as a chapter in our life, and that chapter was what it was meant to be, and now we are in a new chapter, and we have a different mindset. I am enjoying where we are right now. I know that we won't be here forever, because it will be nice to one day, not anytime soon, but enjoy life without aches and pains, and while we can still move around. I don't know a whole lot of farmers who jumped into it in their 40s like we did. Most people started when they were young, or they inherited the family business, or they ran away from growing up as a farmer and came back, but that necessarily wasn't our fate. This was all a choice. And I think that being a choice comes through when people come to the farm and they visit and they see the things that we've done and we have and we do. We still own our property in our townhouse. We have a tenant who rents it out, and anytime we go there for anything, or we've gone to do cleanup, it doesn't feel like our place, and it's not. But I think that that's a testament also to how much we love where we are, and how much we don't look back and have any regrets of the journey that we've come on so far.
That's great to hear. And I was going to ask about a typical day for you both. And maybe we'll start with Dragan and say, I know that because you have animals, in addition to the plants you're growing, that really ties you right to the land, because if you leave, the animals would not be taken care of unless you had somebody else there to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. We always get a weird look from friends when they see how many animals we have and how do you take a vacation? And our answer is we don't. This was a commitment for first 3 to 5 years. There will be no vacations until we establish the farm and the business and all of that. So our typical day usually starts with the sunrise somewhere in the morning, doing the farm chores, feeding the animals. So all of our animals need to be fed twice a day, every morning and every evening. We have about 75 ducks that take care of the orchard. So we feed the ducks. We have 300 layers that Kevin mentioned. We take care of them. And then depending on the time of the season, we have between 300 and right now we are a last batch of 35 of meat chickens. We also process meat chickens. So there's difference between chickens that lay eggs and chickens that we consume as your chicken breast, chicken wings, and all of those. So there's 2 different breeds of chickens for each purpose. And we have both. We just added this spring, we added sheep. So that's another 4. We're offering lamb now in our farm store as well. So that extended our farm chores a little bit. So usually our morning chores take about 45 minutes to an hour. And after that, probably we'll have a breakfast and go do the gardening. Again, depending on the time of the year. So the spring, then it's going to be heavy gardening, planting and all of that. Later on in summer, it's more of maintaining the garden, weeding, watering, making sure that everything is watered, harvests. And then in the fall kind of becomes a little bit easier as we go on late in the season. There's less and less of the garden chores and kind of all of our even animal chores. We stop with the meat chickens, usually end of October. So that kind of slows down. So we kind of slowed down a little bit, but we picked up on some other projects that we were not able to attend during the busy season.
Kevin, anything to add to that?
Also, too, in the evening chores can be a little bit more also, too. There are the collecting of eggs that we have to take care of, and those types of things. And because we do have a farm store that's open year round here at the farm, that adds additional types of chores that you have to do with setting up the store in the morning and then breaking it down. There's certain things that we are either putting back into our walk-in refrigerator or taking out, restocking, in addition to watering, of course, all of the things that we are growing here in our land, then making sure that the plants that we have stocked in our garden center too are always watered. Sometimes that's twice a day, depending on the time of year,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that all of those also too stay nice, whether you need to go through and do a little bit of deadheading, dahlias and all of those things. So it can ebb and flow. A lot of people might not look forward to winter. We do, because we get a little bit of a rest from tending to animals. But as Dragan mentioned, we pick up on other things like refreshing our animal housing units and things like that, is when we have an opportunity to focus on those other projects during the winter months.
And so you mentioned the store. That are you both also doing the sales on site at the store, or somebody else working that?
Both, actually. We just added an employee. We started with just the two of us, and this spring we added a friend of ours, Cindy. She helps us out 4 days a week, works in the store. But we have two existing barn buildings on the property, and one of those buildings we converted into a farm store. All that renovation of that barn, we did it ourselves with some help from a few of the friends with some of the more labor-intensive jobs. Pretty much everything in that store, it's Kevin and I and a YouTube University was how to frame a window, how to wire, how to any of those how to. We've been great at learning that from YouTube and implementing that in our store. And this is actually our first full year that we are open with the store. We started the renovation last year. Last year was 24. So we started renovation of February of 24 and didn't open the doors of the store till about, I believe, August, right, Kevin?
Yeah, it was end of summer.
Mm-hmm.
End of summer last year, we kind of opened the doors of the store, but it still needed a lot of work done. It's still store is still kind of work in progress, but it's on the tail end of that.
Mm-hmm. So you had a cutting garden, you have the eggs, which I'm sure is more than you could possibly sell at the store. Do you have direct customers like local restaurants, Dragan, from your hospitality industry days?
So what's funny, as I mentioned that earlier, we wanted to stay so close to DC because of the connection to restaurants and being able to sell to restaurants. We always thought that was going to be our main drive for the business to sell. And we didn't expect that our community was going to respond the way it responded. Some of my DC chefs actually contacted us. Whenever you're ready, we're ready for you. We're ready to buy from you. And I had to say no, because we are having a hard time keeping up with our local demand here. So that was a really, really nice surprise to see what demand is for locally grown produce and meats, and such amazing support, like Kevin said earlier, from the community that we are in.
Kevin, and it was mentioned that you sell plants as well. Do you propagate those plants, or do you purchase in plugs or starts and grow them on?
We do a little bit of both. We have propagated and grown some of our own, and some things we get from wholesalers. We have some particular growers that we use for fall, for example. One of our mum growers that we've used for the last 3 years grows incredibly beautiful mums, and some other perennials and annuals that we use actually kind of in the springtime too. So we do a little bit of both, and with the orchard as well, being able to soon offer fruit that's grown right here at the farm.
We added a greenhouse. Sorry, we're adding a greenhouse. We're looking to build a greenhouse, and we'll be able to grow a lot of our stuff as well. Because our in Virginia here, the spring season can be really, really weird. You can have a frost on beginning of May even sometime,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go into 80 degrees by Mother's Day, and everybody wants a blooming plant. I was like, well, it's kind of hard without a greenhouse, especially heated green. Even if you have a cold frame, it's still those plants are going to struggle on those, 30, 40 degree nights and 40 and below.
Mm-hmm.
So we are in a process of building a greenhouse, one of many that we hope to have to actually extend our growing season and extend what we can offer to our customers. But right now, for majority of the bigger plants, we were, for the last couple of years, we were getting them through a local wholesale that grows, and they have a heated greenhouse, and he lets me literally pick whatever I want through his greenhouse. So it is amazing just to be able to, somebody who loves plants, who loves planting, like it is just such a joy to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to add that in the spring, it's also the soil temperatures haven't warmed up enough, and then you're trying to propagate at the same time and get these plants into bloom, and that could be a tough struggle.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. But we'll see. I'm really looking forward to see once we have actually a 34 by 96 greenhouse coming in. So that should give us some space to grow. So
that will be exciting. Speaking of the sheep you had talked about earlier, I watched one of the videos, Kevin, where you were applying petroleum jelly and then saran wrap around the base of your peach trees, the orchard you mentioned, and the fruit trees that will be coming on soon and bearing for you. So I thought that was really interesting technique, and I assume you got that from somebody else on YouTube, or maybe that was from some edible landscaping advice, maybe from Mike McConkey or somebody else in the area. Who did you pick that up from?
Actually, the nursery where we purchased all of our fruit trees from for our orchard provided that tip to us. We had geese at one point in time, and the geese had become quite fond of chewing on the fruit trees, and they had all but destroyed one of them. And when we contacted the nursery about some of the damaged trees that we had and some issues, that was one of the tips that they provided to us.
Yeah, let us know how that heals up, because once the bark is stripped off, it is so hard on the trees, of course. And speaking of damage to trees and plants and that sort of thing, do you have a lot of deer pressure where you are, or do you have another pest that you're dealing with?
So we do deal with quite a bit of deer. So orchard, to give a little background on the orchard, we have a 3-acre orchard. We planted close to 350 fruit trees about 2 years ago now, and there were about the 3-foot tall seedlings when we planted them, and some of them are getting ready now to probably hoping to have fruit this next summer. But everything gets a learning curve, as you know. And with the deer, we had quite a bit of damage last 2 winters ago. As we were growing the farm, we kind of didn't tend and cut the grass as much in the orchard, which provided quite a kind of hiding spots for the deer. And in that winter of 2023 to 24, there was 47 trees were damaged in the deer. And that was devastating. And that was like, we invested way too much money into this orchard. So we did end up replacing those. But we now also have increased the amount of outside dogs on the property that kind of deter deer away. As everybody else in this region, and if you have any good tips for them, it's the Japanese beetles are our nemesis. They love cherry trees. They love plum trees. Those are the first 2 fruits that they go on. I always laugh. On some of the smaller gardens, we always get advice just to grab a bucket of soapy water. It's easy. You just shake them off. I was like, right. 350 trees. It's very easy to shake them off of 350 trees.
Yeah.
So we try to stay as organic as possible. We don't like spraying, especially. We do dormant spraying on our trees, but we don't do any spraying. Once the leaves are out, blooms and leaves are out, there's no spraying on the fruit trees. So Japanese beetles are quite still a battle.
Yep. I would say my only advice for them would be the milky spore grub control, and that is organic powder that you can do for ground treatment, and it gets the Japanese beetles in their grub stage. It's not going to kill those that have emerged and are attacking your plants, but at least gives you a head start on the next generation.
Can I ask you, are you familiar? Have you done that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you have to have...
So my skepticism with that was, okay, you do it, but your neighbor doesn't.
Correct.
That's that.
Yeah, I was going to say that you need to buy enough to share with your neighbors, because the Japanese beetles don't know where there's a fence line, right? So if you can get as much acreage around you to be covered as well in the milky spore, that helps a lot. So it is a good biological control. And, if you can treat even one field or where you think they're emerging from, that at least will give you somewhat of a head start.
And how often do you treat the ground?
I think it's once, and then the treatment lasts for about a decade or so.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So try it out, see how it does for you. I always feel like, unless you can train your chickens to eat those Japanese beetles and get up in the trees, that would be your next thing, is something that would actually eat those Japanese beetles and their grubs.
Yeah, we surrounded Orchid with bird houses. We're hoping we have lots of bluebirds, and then we're trying to do some natural control. It is just tough.
Yep.
Chickens will eat them, but chickens don't fly that up.
Correct.
And when they're in the full swing, there's really, even chickens get tired of them. We use beetle traps. And we would dump entire bucket of beetles to the chickens, and by the third bucket, they're like, "No, we're not eating these anymore."
Even them are tired of it. That's funny. So, Kevin, how can our listeners contact you or find out more?
I think Facebook is the best way to keep up with what we have going on seasonally, weekly, daily. We do almost a daily post, sometimes more than one post on Facebook, and that's been a great way for us to communicate with our customers, people who are interested in coming to the farm to shop at the store, to be able to ask questions. And you can find us by simply searching for Gardening Gaze on Facebook. I always caution people that there are several spam pages out there that have been spoofing us and have done a great job because they have amassed quite a few followers, but definitely look for the authentic one there. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all by searching for Gardening Gaze. We would love for folks to subscribe to our YouTube channel so they can also participate in our journey and watch those weekly vlogs and get notifications and go back and see where the journey has started and where we are. And we don't even know where it's going to be next week. So that's always the really exciting part. But Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, search Gardening Gaze and you'll find us there.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, Kevin, was what are your future plans for expansion? I know you said the greenhouses, but anything else in particular?
There are several things that, of course, are active and on the vision board. We would love to be able to offer some small farm to fork experiences here at the farm by having a space for people to gather at the base of our orchard. We have a creek that runs along the property, and there is a perfect perch of a hill between the creek and to have a small gathering for people there. That's on our vision board. Another thing that's on our vision board is building a commercial kitchen. Dragan talked about the DC chefs reaching out and us not really needing to go that way quite yet because of the demand that we have here. But in the same vein, people are constantly asking about being able to purchase our products online. And we haven't gotten to that point yet because of the limitations that we have working within certain exemptions here in the Virginia Commonwealth that allow us to do things like make things at home to sell from our store. The exemptions that we have by being able to raise, process, and package our own meat chickens here under 1,000 birds per year with an exemption from the state. Those are things that we are working within constraints for, but having a commercial kitchen on the property would allow us to have greater quantity of things to not only stock the shelves at the store, but to start working on an online store. We would like to also to add a butcher facility as part of that building so that we can become USDA certified to go beyond the 1,000 bird cap that we are currently operating under and be able to expand the reach for the products that are procured, raised, and done right here on the farm to get to more people.
And I do know that you have a inaugural Farm Fest fall edition coming up. Dragan, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, that's always been in our plans for our store to open. We work with over 20 local vendors already, but there's also vendors that will have a bulky products, seasonal products that requires so much more retail space that we are unable to offer them that space in our limited space store. But we just always wanted to do a market day at the farm where we can open doors for those vendors to come out and take advantage of, I guess, our customers, and then they can be exposed to everything that we have. So end of this month, last weekend of October, 25th and 26th, we are doing our very first Farm Fest, and we have about additional 20 vendors that are coming to the farm to offer their product, their crafts, what they're making, and everything is super, super local to King George and the Fredericksburg areas.
Excellent. So listeners, you can go down and visit them and meet them and shop at the farm market and from their guest vendors. So anything you want to add, Kevin or Dragan, to our listeners to talk about that transition you did over the last few years? Was it worth it?
Kevin, was it worth it?
Absolutely. I've said that I think that I firmly believe we are going to live a lot longer life now that we are here versus the life that we were living in DC. We are eating a lot better. We're eating food that we're growing, that we're raising. We go to the store very rarely for things that we might need because everything is always fresh and right here and available at our fingertips. We're outside all the time. We're constantly active. If Dragan doesn't believe it, but I believe my pedometer on my phone when it says that I've done 15 to 20,000 steps, on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And all of those things have just enhanced the quality of life that we're living. On top of that, I say all the time that the conversations we have with people have so much more depth and meaning than the life that we had prior to coming to the farm. We've met so many great families and who have some of our customers who become family to us as well too. And just to have all of those people in your life and to know that they depend on you for something, it really kind of stirs a new purpose in you, helps to energize you for the next day.
Excellent. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your transition to country life and farming, and I hope our listeners will follow the Gardening Gaze on their journey into the future. Thank you again, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
GardenDC will be back after this short break.
In the book The Urban Garden by Kathy Jentz and Terry Spate, you'll find dozens of inspiring and creative ways to grow flowers, shrubs, vegetables, herbs, and other plants in small spaces and with a limited budget. Whether you want to grow on a balcony, rooftop, front stoop, or a tiny urban patio, turn your growing dreams into reality and build a gorgeous and unique garden that showcases your personal style while still being functional and productive. With the ingenious ideas and resourceful tactics found here, you'll be maximizing yields and beauty from every square inch of your space. No matter what you grow, the 101 amazing growing ideas found in the urban garden will turn your tiny urban yard into a treasure trove of green you'll be proud to share with family and friends. Buy your copy today at your local retail bookseller or order it online now at Amazon.com or bookshop.org.
Hello, Finny. Did you think our story was over?
Mr. Grammar.
This Friday.
You're dead.
Dead is just a word.
Critics are saying Ethan Hawke is pure nightmare fuel.
Finny.
Discover the secret behind the mask.
What do you think happens when you die? It's time to find out.
Black Phone 2, only in theaters Friday. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Hairy Aster plant profile. Hairy Aster, Symphyotrichum pilosum, is native throughout the eastern half of the United States. It is a perennial wildflower with small daisy-like flowers running along tall stems. The stems have a hairy texture, hence the common name. Its other common names include frost aster, all aster, steelweed, and hairy white oldfield aster. Hairy aster blooms from summer into fall and is hardy to zones 3 to 9. It grows best in full sun. It thrives in disturbed soils, such as along roadways. It's also salt-resistant and drought-tolerant. Hairy aster is visited by many kinds of pollinators. Its seeds are also a winter food source for songbirds. If left to go to seed, it will self-sow easily. It is low maintenance and requires no fertilizing or other care. Hairy aster, you can grow that. What's new in the garden this week? Well, I'm enjoying the blooms on my sedum autumn joy and other tall sedums. Over at the community garden plot, I'm harvesting onions. In garden tips that we shared this week on our social media, we talked about fall perennial care, including that there are some perennials that prefer lean soil and should not be fertilized. They include yarrow, baptisia, lavender, catmint, penstemon, salvia, and tall sedum. In local gardening events, if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, join the Silver Spring Garden Club on Monday, October 20th for a talk entitled Plants That Pop. Join Carl Gersons, conservatory manager at Longwood Gardens, for an inspiring dive into bold and colorful plants that bring landscapes to life. The meeting takes place at Brookside Gardens in Wheaton, Maryland. Doors open at 7 p.m. The talk starts at 7:30 p.m. This meeting is free and open to all. You can find out more details at silverspringgardenclub.com or at the Silver Spring Garden Club Facebook page. Then on Saturday, October 25th, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Edible Landscaping is hosting their annual Persimmon Festival. Join them for a day of persimmon tastings, medicinal plant walks, door prizes, and sales. All plants will be 20% off. You can find out more about that at Edible Landscaping's website. And then at Longwood Gardens in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, they are holding a number of events and talks this fall, including the Milkweed and Monarchs talk on Saturday, October 25th from 2 to 3:30 p.m. The fee for that is $49. Feeding Your Backyard Birds on Sunday, November 2nd from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Fee is $39. And then Introduction to the History of Garden Design. This is a 4-week online course, and the fee for that is $159. You can find out more about those classes at Longwood Gardens website. Happy gardening!
This is The Last Word by Christy Page at Green Prints with The Ghost Orchids Whispered, a story by Lorraine Miller. Deep in the mystical swamps of Florida, where ancient cypress trees stand like sentinels and the air hums with secrets, the rare ghost orchid hides its delicate beauty. This elusive bloom has an almost otherworldly presence. Its flowers, pale and fragile, seem to float like tiny ghosts in the sultry stillness of summer nights. Mia, an intrepid ecologist and a lifelong lover of plants, had dreamed of finding one. Armed with her trusty notebook, a flashlight, and unshakable determination, she set off one balmy evening into the heart of the swamp. The buzz of cicadas accompanied her steps, while the occasional ripple of the water hinted at unseen creatures sharing the journey. Finally, there it was, a single ghost orchid glowing faintly under the moonlight, its spectral petals swaying ever so gently in the humid breeze. Mia knelt beside it, captivated. The bloom was as enchanting as a fairy tale, but carried the weight of a tragic reality. The ghost orchid was in peril. Poaching, climate change, and the slow encroachment of development were unraveling its world. Yet, in this moment, the flower was defiant, a small radiant survivor in a sea of challenges. Mia made a vow that night, not just to document the orchid's beauty, but to champion its cause. With every photograph and every word she would write, she aimed to inspire others to protect the fragile wonders of nature. The ghost orchid, so shy and elusive, had whispered its story into her heart. As she left the swamp, the image of the bloom lingered in her mind, a symbol of resilience, quiet strength, and the urgency to care for the world's hidden treasures. This has been The Last Word by Christy Page at greenprints.com.
This episode was made by Real Humans. It was produced and hosted by myself, Kathy Gents, with editing assistance from intern Cavett Ireland. The Let the Sunshine music interludes are by James Mulvaney. If you like this episode, you may also enjoy listening to GardenDC podcast episode 224, The Reformation of a Bad Naturalist, episode 253, The Farm-to-Vase Movement, episode 7, Chickens in the Garden. By the way, you can become a listener, supporter, and subscriber. Find that link in our show notes. Another way to support this podcast is to subscribe to our monthly digital publication, Washington Gardener Magazine. To do so, go to WashingtonGardener.com or WashingtonGardener.blogspot.com. You can find Washington Gardener on Twitter or X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Pinterest at WDC Gardener, and on Facebook at Washington Gardener Magazine. And be sure to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast listening app. Please take a moment to share us on social media with hashtag GardenDC and with your gardening friends so other gardeners can find us too.